Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Echo of Life. Let's start. There is a peculiar experience some individuals have but seldom discuss. It occurs in the quiet pauses, in the stillness after conversation ends, when the world feels loud even in silence. It's the moment a person realizes they feel more comfortable with space than with closeness, not from a grand disdain for humanity, but because proximity to others often feels unexpectedly heavy. It can drain them, create confusion, or stir self-doubt. If you have ever felt that subtle reluctance before entering a room full of chatter, chosen a longer route to avoid an encounter, or sensed a peculiar tension when answering a simple question, you already understand this feeling. It is not hatred. It is something more intricate, more layered, a sentiment rarely voiced aloud. Some people do not dislike others. They dislike what interactions draw out from within them. The roles they feel pressured to perform, the expectations they must meet, the constant, subtle arithmetic of social adjustment, modifying this part of themselves, concealing that thought, softening a truth, crafting an expression. Every moment becomes a negotiation between authenticity and acceptance. And for some, that negotiation is utterly exhausting. To grasp the psychology here, one must look beyond surface labels like introverted or reserved. The reality is more nuanced. Many who claim to dislike people are among the most observant, sensitive, and thoughtful individuals. Their struggle is not with people per se, but with the emotional labor attached to connecting with them. Consider walking into a crowded room. For some, the mind doesn't just see faces. It decodes signals, the tone in a voice, the tension in a posture, the slight shifts in collective energy. They process all of this rapidly and intensely. They absorb too much. They notice too much. And noticing too much can make the world feel deafeningly loud. Like standing before a wall of screens, each broadcasting a different channel, all demanding attention. Most don't experience the world this way, and thus don't understand how depleting it can be. This relates to a psychological concept, emotional overstimulation. It is not a disorder or a flaw, but a form of heightened sensitivity. Those who experience it often require more space, not as a rejection of others, but as preservation of self. They have learned that excessive emotional input destabilizes their inner world, so they pull back, not in disdain but in self-regulation. Yet there is a deeper layer. For some, disconnection stems from past experiences where people became sources of confusion or quiet disappointment. Not necessarily through dramatic betrayals, but through subtle, cumulative letdowns that leave a lasting mark. Perhaps they learned early that conversations often carried hidden meanings, that kindness could feel conditional, that trust seemed fragile and easily withdrawn. Over time, distance becomes the safest place. Not isolation, but a buffer, a small emotional space where they can breathe without feeling observed, judged, or misunderstood. Then there is the societal expectation to be perpetually friendly, patient, and accessible. To some, this feels deeply artificial. They are not energized by casual exchanges or small talk. They crave depth. They seek truth. They want conversations with meaning, not performances of politeness. Because such genuine exchanges are rare, they often choose solitude over shallow connection, not from a dislike of humanity, but from a preference for authenticity. This creates a fascinating paradox. Many who say they dislike people actually yearn for connection, just not the kind typically on offer. They desire conversations free of pretense, relationships where silence is comfortable, honesty without fear, closeness without pressure, and affection without performance. These things exist, but not everywhere. So, until they find the rare few who understand, solitude becomes a temporary sanctuary. Another psychological aspect is protective detachment. This occurs when someone learns, consciously or not, that lowering their guard carries an emotional cost.
What is this?
They build a barrier, not a wall of anger, but a shield of caution. They move through the world quietly, observing more than participating, often appearing distant or uninterested. But internally, a constant evaluation is underway. Is this safe? Is this genuine? Will this drain me? If the answer feels uncertain, they step back. And stepping back becomes a habit. Interestingly, these individuals often possess a rich inner world. Their thoughts are vivid, their imagination deep, their capacity for reflection profound. Because this internal landscape is so full, the external social world can feel less necessary. It's not that they reject connection. It simply doesn't compete with the comfort of their own mind. Their solitude isn't empty. It's abundant with ideas, memories, and possibilities. Being pulled from it too abruptly feels like a disruption, not an invitation. A quiet truth many overlook is this: solitude feels safe to those who have learned that being misunderstood is more painful than being alone. And for highly perceptive individuals, misunderstanding is almost a guarantee. Their silence is read as coldness, their calm as disinterest, their distance as rejection. In reality, they often care deeply, they just express it differently with thoughtful observation rather than overt noise. It's crucial to understand that these individuals do not wish to live in permanent distance. They desire closeness, a closeness that doesn't deplete them. They seek relationships where they can remain themselves without constant adjustment, where silence is recognized as comfort, not discomfort. They long for presence without pressure. Deep down, they hope to find someone who can see past their calm exterior to the depth beneath. What they crave most is emotional freedom, the liberty to feel, think, and express themselves without performance. Because such freedom is rare, they protect themselves until they find it. Contrary to assumption, this tendency doesn't always stem from negative experiences. Research suggests some individuals are simply wired for introspection. Their default state is inward. They gain clarity from reflection, recharge in quiet, and access creativity through solitude. Social interaction, for them, is like visiting a bustling city. Interesting, but not a place to reside permanently. This also relates to stimulation thresholds. Some thrive in energetic environments because their threshold for external input is high. Others reach that threshold quickly. Their minds become crowded, emotions cluttered. They need silence as others need music, stillness as others need movement. Asking them to socialize constantly is like asking someone to run a daily marathon. Possible, but at a tremendous cost. So why do they phrase it as, "I dislike people"? Often, it's simpler than explaining their own complexity. Saying "people drain me" is easier than detailing the overwhelming layers beneath every interaction. Saying "I like being alone" is easier than confessing "I don't know how to connect without losing parts of myself." It's a shorthand for a much deeper truth. I struggle to feel safe in spaces where I can't fully be me. Here's a quiet secret. Most who say this are profoundly compassionate, not with loud, public displays, but with a quiet, deep-seated care for fairness, respect, and sincerity. They are affected by things others overlook. They feel in high resolution. Their hearts work overtime, even when their faces show nothing. They also possess remarkable self-awareness, constantly analyzing their own reactions, questioning their discomfort, and examining their patterns. They move through life with introspection, not autopilot. Sometimes that very awareness becomes overwhelming. They feel too much inside to handle too much outside. Furthermore, many who dislike people actually love humanity in the abstract. They are fascinated by human stories, creativity, and resilience. They love observing from a distance, understanding how minds work. They struggle not with humanity as a concept, but with humanity as a responsibility, the up-close emotional demands and unpredictability of personal relationships. This makes them exceptionally thoughtful. They don't enter relationships lightly. Their circle is small not because they dislike people, but because they value authenticity so intensely that few truly fit. Remarkably, when they do trust someone, they often become extraordinary listeners. Their quietness fosters attentiveness. Their introspection breeds empathy. Their caution leads to gentleness. They may not engage with many, but with the few they choose, the connection is profound. Navigating this creates an internal tightrope walk,
What is this?
balancing the safety of solitude with the longing for understanding, protecting their peace while wishing closeness felt less draining. Deep inside, they hope for a person or an experience that redefines connection for them, something that proves not everyone takes energy. Some give it. Not everyone overwhelms. Some bring calm. Not everyone confuses. some bring clarity. Until then, they carry a quiet emotional truth. Disliking people isn't really about others. It's about protection, energy management, understanding personal limits, and preserving parts of the self that feel too fragile to expose. If anyone truly understood their inner world, they'd realize something surprising. These individuals don't push people away because they feel nothing. They pull back because they feel everything. There comes a point of self-reflection, often in the quiet of night, when they wonder if their distance is a choice or a shield. They ask why small talk feels like labor, why interaction feels laden with expectation, why socializing feels like solving an emotional puzzle. The answers often lie in accumulated, subtle experiences. Moments where opening up led to being misunderstood, expressing needs led to dismissal, or authenticity met with criticism. These small injuries accumulate, quietly shaping an association between people and discomfort. Yet, it's also a matter of social nourishment. Some require depth, not volume. Authenticity, not performance. Spaces where they don't have to negotiate their identity. Because such spaces are rare, retreat becomes a necessity, not bitterness. Akin to someone with specific dietary needs avoiding food that doesn't agree with them. Their internal world is uniquely active. Their inner voice is loud, analytical, and reflective. They don't just experience emotions. They dissect them. This constant processing is mentally demanding, leading to what psychologists call anticipatory regulation. Mentally rehearsing interactions, predicting outcomes, and preparing for emotional risks before they even occur. By the time they actually socialize, they've already expended significant energy. Despite this, they long for ease, for relationships where they don't have to rehearse, filter, or brace themselves. They long for people who understand silence and depth. They've cultivated a resilient solitude, becoming their own companion. So any connection must be meaningful enough to warrant the disruption. A key misunderstanding is that they dislike individuals. More often, they dislike the environments people create. Chaos, emotional inconsistency, unpredictability, and situations demanding constant interpretation. Paradoxically, they connect most naturally with those who demand nothing. People who don't mistake their stillness for coldness, their distance for rejection. With the right ones, their softness, humor, intelligence, and vulnerability emerge beautifully. Reaching this point requires patience, with their own discomfort, patterns, and the slow unfurling of trust. Safety isn't a lightning strike. It's a slowly kindled fire. It also requires relearning old emotional rules formed from past experiences that may no longer apply. In truth, many of these individuals are not antisocial. They are deeply social under the right conditions, valuing loyalty, sincerity, and emotional safety above all. When they find it, they become exceptionally committed and generous. Until then, they exist in a kind of emotional limbo, moving quietly through life, carefully granting access to their inner world. The cost of letting someone in is something they know all too well. There is a poetic quality to them. Their emotions run deep, their minds wander far, and they find meaning in silence and simplicity. They think before speaking, analyze before reacting, observe before judging. In a world that often rewards loudness, they are powered by depth. If you spend time with such a person, you may notice they process life in emotional slow motion. They feel deeply before expressing, reflect before responding. This natural rhythm can make fast-paced social situations feel jarring and overwhelming, like asking a painter to complete a masterpiece in 5 minutes. Their empathy is another factor, a quiet, internal empathy where they feel others' emotions almost as their own. This empathic absorption is energetically costly, leading them to establish boundaries that look like distance. It's not rejection. It's emotional bandwidth management. The great irony is that the more they protect themselves, the more misunderstood they become. People see coldness where there is actually profound feeling. Their silence is not a lack of thought, but a lack of noise. Their distance is not a rejection of others, but an embrace of themselves. Beneath it all lies an unspoken hope, to one day not need to defend their energy, to find people who bring peace, not pressure, for connection to feel like warmth, not obligation. They hope for someone who understands that their silence is a form of trust, their distance a form of self-preservation, their solitude a form of healing. Because those who dislike people don't truly want to live behind walls forever. They want someone who knocks gently, who stays long enough for the wall to lower on its own, who doesn't rush their openness, who understands that their heart is slow to trust because it is careful, not because it is closed. When the right connection enters their life, something shifts. The world grows a little quieter. Conversations feel less demanding. The emotional weight lightens. They laugh more freely, speak more openly, share more honestly. Their once guarded inner world becomes a space they allow another to witness. That is the true psychology here. It is not a rejection of humanity, but a longing for the right humanity. It is not emotional coldness, but emotional sensitivity. It is not aloofness, but self-preservation. It is not judgment, but discernment. Perhaps if this were understood, fewer would feel the need to hide behind distance. They wouldn't be labeled antisocial or unfriendly. They would be seen for what they are: thoughtful, sensitive, perceptive individuals navigating a world that often moves too loudly, too quickly, and too carelessly for their inner rhythm. Because deep down, even the most distant person carries a simple desire: to be understood without exhaustive explanation, to be accepted without performance, to be cared for without exhaustion, to be close to others without losing themselves. And when that desire is finally met, when someone shows them that connection can be soft, steady, and safe, something remarkable happens. They realize they never disliked people. They just needed the right ones. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel for more update.